fifth density body being used while the space-time fifth density body remains in fifth density, and how the bombardment of the particles changing the locational variable relates to that?
We're not sure exactly how you're asking this question. Can you repeat it?
Ra, the sixth density, speaks about the time-space fifth density body being used while the space-time fifth density body remains in fifth density.
Well, you're just talking about the idea of the relationship between the physical body and the physical mind and the higher mind in a non-physical form. That's all you're saying in other terms.
So
as we have explained, you have a soul which creates the idea of the non-physical higher mind in fifth density, but also has a projection into the idea of third and fourth density of a physical mind and a physical body experience. And so the idea of the higher mind and the physical mind together form the entire person that is having that particular journey. Does that answer the question?
So how does the locational variable relate to that?
The locational variable relates to that in the same way we've described it, because any kind of a change, any kind of sensation or experience that you recognize or label as movement of any kind actually involves the changing of the locational variable. So even a move like this involves changing the locational variable. You do it automatically, instinctively, and intuitively all the time. It's just that we're breaking it down for you in a way that can be applied in a broader sense technologically as well, if you wish.
So at what dimension, by injecting yourself into another universe, does this happen?
Well, it can still happen in a sequence of fourth density realities, because there are many parallel realities that are also physiological. Now, you may take advantage of the fact that you're connecting with the higher mind in fifth density to allow you more efficacy in doing this, but you can still skip from frame to frame through a diagrammic, shall we say, idea of fourth density realities, physical realities. Because you're shifting all the time to create the idea anyway of even what appears to be one reality.
And we do this by focusing thought?
No. You simply do it by making choices, by what you believe to be true. Thought is a secondary idea where you can ruminate on what it is you've chosen, but thought itself is not really the driving mechanism. Belief systems are. What you believe is true is what shifts you. You can use thoughts to help navigate you to some degree, but really it comes down to what you believe to be true.
And also, how does one densify or become visible from the non-physical or metaphysical instantaneously?
Your question is not organized. How does one...
Word for the afterlife. I'm not sure what word to call that.
Well, you can use afterlife. We understand that. You can say spirit realm, whatever you wish, which is non-physical. But the idea is it's a lowering of frequency. It's sort of analogous to the idea of the frequency changes that happen with water. You have steam, which is a higher frequency. You have water, which is a middle frequency. And you have ice, which is a lower frequency. So the idea of the spirit can be sort of likened to the idea of steam. And then you have the idea of the electromagnetic energy, which can kind of be likened to liquid water, and it's a lower frequency than the steam or the spirit realm. And then you have the physical reality experience, which is a lowering of frequency, again, sort of crystallizing your idea of spirit into a more solid appearing form. Does that analogy help?
So what they're really doing is they're moving the space around them.
Well, space is an illusion. You're kind of being more technical than you need to be in this. What's happening is simply a lowering or changing of frequency. Whatever space needs to be around them will automatically be reflected by the lowering of frequency. Because remember, you can only experience what you're the frequency of. So as you change your frequency, that determines what you experience around you. And as you lower it from spirit, you experience things that seem to contain more experiences of space and time, because that's what goes hand in hand with the lower frequency. So it's not like they're deliberately moving space around them or anything. All they have to do is change the frequency, and whatever needs to happen to reflect that change will happen automatically. It's built in.
Okay.
Yes?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bashar.
You are welcome. Good day.
Hi, Bashar. My name's Renee. I'm from Adelaide, Australia. My question is about the excitement formula. Something I've been wondering a long time is, you said that the physical mind isn't really in a position to know what our highest excitement is, and the process of discovering our excitement is to just act on the feeling. So I'm just wondering if it's the higher mind that decides what the exciting activity is. Where does that leave free will for us as our physical selves? So it sounds like it's our non-physical self that decides what exciting activities we are going to do rather than our physical mind, or is it a co-creation?
It's a co-creation, but this is a misquote. I have never said that the physical mind can't decide what the exciting activity is. I have said the physical mind can't insist on a particular outcome of the excitement, of the passion. I have never said that you can't decide what the excitement is or recognize it when it comes. Now, yes, the higher mind does bring you, or synchronicity itself does bring you, certain circumstances and opportunities that are attempts to remind you what is representative as an activity of your passion, of your true self. So in that sense, you are still sending this to yourself. It's not that the higher mind in any way, shape, or form is separate from you. It's still you. And you're sending these ideas to yourself, and therefore it's still an exercise in free will and choice, even if it's coming from the higher mind to the physical, because it's representative of what you're saying this theme and this life and this personality is all about. It's just that you're doing it in a convenient way where the physical mind doesn't have to hold on to every single detail of determination. So the idea is that you're still bringing it to yourself with your free will, but it's being brought to you, in a sense, as a physical being, through the auspices and in the style of the overall theme that you chose to explore. And that may seem like destiny, but it's still the product of your free will from a higher level, because the higher mind is not separate from you. It's still you as a unique individual. It's just that the unique person is separated, so to speak, in the experience of a non-physical and a physical component. But it's still you. So it's not eliminating your free will. It's just that free will can be exercised on different levels simultaneously.
Hi, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
I wanted to ask you if it's true that 10,000 years ago, the Great Pyramid in Giza was used to harness free energy, and every household in Egypt had electricity.
No, not every household in Egypt had electricity. The Great Pyramid 10,500 years ago can be used to harness energy and convert it into electrical current, but that was usually mostly used by the priesthood and the pharaohs and the kings. It wasn't distributed in the way that you think. In Atlantean times, more like 20,000 years ago, the idea was that they knew how to create crystals to vibrate in certain ways, that there would be sympathetic vibrations in the crystals distributed throughout the community, and therefore in that sense they were able to have light and other forms of energy in the different households. But that's not exactly electricity as you understand it, although electric current to some degree, or electrons as an electron field more specifically, was involved in that. It was an attempt to recreate that to some degree with the Giza pyramid, but it was relatively limited because the idea initially of some of that knowledge had been lost, and the ability to recreate some of those crystals was also lost. So it was a lower form of that idea that produced an electron field to some degree, but its use was limited and not capable of being spread very far.
I see. And how close was Nikola Tesla to rediscovering free energy?
Oh, he already discovered it. He absolutely discovered it. It's just that the information was suppressed.
Why was it suppressed?
Oh, take a guess.
Fear and greed.
Thank you.
And which present-day countries would be most receptive to implementing free energy?
Japan.
Japan. And why is that?
Because they already have the idea of a collective work ethic that would allow them to focus on it as a project in much the same way that your United States focused on the idea of the space race in going to the moon.
Interesting. And I had a question about global warming. How much of it is man-made versus natural? And what are the most effective ways to counter it?
All right. It is a natural cycle, but human technology has accelerated it. What you're experiencing today as climate change, most likely in its natural form, would not necessarily have happened for another 100 to 200 years. So humanity has accelerated the cycle of climate change. Now, there are many ways that you can create things to be effective, although in many cases, again, you won't do them because of one reason or another in your society's estimates and understanding of what you believe you are willing to do. One of the ways you can counter it is by dispersing very fine particles of gold in the upper atmosphere to reflect the sun or balance it in certain ways and control it with electromagnetic fields. But again, the idea is that gold is so precious to all of you, or at least most of you, that you are unlikely to use gold for that purpose. That's one way you could be doing it. There are other ways, and we'll leave those up to you to discover, but certainly reducing the idea of waste and destruction on your planet and allowing more natural environments could also slow it down, or at least allow you to mitigate it in certain ways.
I see. And in a previous broadcast, you mentioned that the Greys spoke English. At least that was one of the languages that they had.
It was, like it is on your version of Earth, the primary language of their version of Earth, yes, in a parallel reality. They weren't that dissimilar from your version of Earth, although they were more technically advanced than you.
So at what point in the past did we have a common reality with the Greys, and what caused the split in the realities?
Well, the split's always been there. It's another parallel reality.
So we never had a common shared reality with them?
In the way that you're asking it, it would probably be easier if you just assumed that you are always different parallel realities. You may have had some common things together, but that doesn't mean you are actually sharing exactly the same reality. I know what you mean, and it might have been almost impossible to tell the difference at certain points in their history from some events in your history, but nevertheless, they are a different reality because they have a different series of choices that they have made, and some of those choices are being made by some individuals in your version, or at least what you think of as your version, but even that is not actually the same version. As we have said, you're experiencing more of the splitting prism, and the idea that just because you can see people making choices that are not vibrationally compatible with the choices you may prefer doesn't mean you're actually living in the same reality just because you can see it.
I see. Okay. Thank you very much.
You are very welcome. Good day.
Hi, dear Bashar. Shalom and Namaste. My name is Amir Ora Hamenata. I have a question for you that, regardless to the Hebrew tribe, if you can please tell me about the Hebrew tribe, exactly where did they come from, and what is the mission from your perspective. I love to hear this answer. I heard from my beloved teacher, Jundolo Melchizedek, He says once that the Hebrew wrote the Bible from the future, even the Torah from the future, and also that they came from out of this planet. And I've been hearing so many interesting things and different types of versions, and I really love to hear to have much more light about this very important topic for me. So if you can please shine your loving light upon this, that's my question. I want to say thank you very much, dear Bashar, for all that you do. Toda, Shivai, and Shalom. God bless.
This is a very complex question with an answer that we cannot go into in great detail at this time. We will give you this and this only today. The original idea, of course, always, as everything, goes back to the Anunnaki, comes through the idea of Atlantis, genetically speaking, maintained more to a high degree of some of the Anunnaki genetics in Atlantis, came into the idea of Egypt, utilizing some of the Atlantean awareness, and went through Egypt and came out into what you now call the Middle East, still bearing strong extraterrestrial connections because of the genetic makeup that connects them to the original Anunnaki. In a sense, it is a preservation of those original genetics that can be spread around the world in a way that will allow for a greater sense of the opening of those markers genetically within many people, because there is now a high degree of mixture among all humans, that those genetics were preserved in the way that they were by leading certain groups from Atlantis, through Egypt, into the Middle East, spreading out from there in a variety of ways. This affords more opportunity for the idea of the hybridization agenda to succeed, and also more opportunity for the human race to evolve to its next phase as the sixth hybrid race. 6, as above, so below, the Jewish star. That is the answer we can give today.
Hi.
And good day.
A number of years ago, I had an experience. I was like researching some sightings in Mexico, and I went to go turn my light off. And as I did that, I saw out my window 2 humanoid beings. I approached, and there was they were female appearing, blonde hair, sharp features. And as I walked towards the window, one of them reached their arms through the glass, grabbed my arm, and then we sort of shot up. I remember saying to myself that I wasn't ready, and then fell back into my bed.
All right.
So since then, I've had a couple of smaller experiences, and I've begun to connect in different ways and channel a little bit, or interpret something. Specifically, I wanted to know how to get into contact with them, but those 2 beings and what exactly they were. I have some concept, but
they were a type of hybrid.
What's that?
Type of hybrid.
Okay. Which type?
We're not allowed to discuss that exactly yet.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. But then how to better get in contact in general, but then being able to hone in specifically on that energy and get into contact with that.
Well, as you drift off to sleep and relax, by remembering that incident and at the same time feeling the energy you felt, feeling how you felt at that moment when that was happening, visualizing it, and asking for more conscious recognition on your own terms to participate with them, you might be able to invite them back. I'm not saying it's an absolute, but you might be able to do that, and at the very least, by remembering how that felt as you're drifting off, as you're relaxing your conscious mind, at the very least, you might open yourself up to other beings who are willing to interact with you at that particular moment. But again, remember, put it out there that you are willing to interact, take responsibility for your part in it, and that you would prefer to interact on your own terms.
Okay, that makes sense. And as far as like how we can like adjust our physical body to best like get ourselves like conducive or
Follow the formula.
Continuously follow the formula.
As you follow the formula, as you act on your passion, what are you doing? You're raising your frequency. As you raise your frequency, what are you doing? You're making yourself a better and more receptive antenna to higher frequency energies and dimensions of reality. So it's automatically built into the formula that you would be more open by acting on your passion to interactions with other beings who are already operating on such a level.
Even down to like the physical components of like what to eat and sleep, like sleeping patterns and things like that.
Everything will match the idea of your natural biological rhythms when you are in sync with yourself, which is what following the formula will help you do.
Okay, that makes sense. Aside from like the purely like psychosomatic parts of it, like the idea of like our own consciousness and subconsciousness being the actual results of like our physical body, is there any like effect of like healing energies or like healing philosophies like Reiki that like from my understanding were used by like previous masters?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Okay. Just in the power of like, from what I'm understanding, it's like almost like a collective energy that they're like tapping into and like becoming a vessel.
Some of them do it that way, yes. But again, please always remember, a healer is only giving off a vibration that the person requiring the healing needs to match in order to heal themselves.
Sure, but there's still a lot of validity to the actual like tapping into and channeling of that vibration so that another person that might not like otherwise be aware of it is aware of it.
Yes, you become a conduit and an example of what might be more probable.
Okay, so it's really like the example is in that sense like through the mere like resonating of a frequency.
Yes, which goes hand in hand with you being in the vibration of your passion and the commensurate actions you take that go along with it that make you a living example of that frequency. So in a sense, by acting on your passion, you become a conduit that increases the probability of the existence and exposure to those frequencies to give more people more opportunity to match those frequencies.
Okay, I get it. It's almost like a spilling over effect that once there's more, it can become more over to that.
Yes, you increase the probability, you give them more opportunities to choose that by making them aware that such a thing exists, at least on some level of their consciousness.
So you could say that like one of those like previous masters or like these like Tibetan monks who used it and things like that, they just became a conduit of very high probability.
Exactly.
To take them.
Exactly.
Okay. So much so that they could even like imbue sort of like an object through the mere like suggestion of it, like, hey, carry.
Permission slips can be part of the process if that's what works for different belief systems. You see, what we're describing to you here is exactly what happens on our world when we say we operate in pure synchronism, and that there can be not a government, but an organizing body that chooses to function in a way that increases the probability for all of us of experiencing synchronism.
Gotcha.
So that's what we're talking about.
So like meeting basic survival needs would be a very easy, accessible thing to increase probability for
the 7 basic needs that you need to thrive as a physical being are automatically met, and they're included in the idea of acting on the formula as well.
Okay.
Synchronicity is the organizing and guiding principle that will attract everything you need if you don't get in the way.
So really, we don't necessarily need to even like know all the different aspects of it, but just follow synchronicity and passion.
Yes, because it's going to bring you what works for you. Because why would it bring you something that wouldn't work for you unless you have asked it to?
Sure, yeah. And then, like, not to say that doesn't happen with like sloppy thinking, but as far as like the specific belief systems and specific ideologies to get through that sort of, we are just delivered to you in that synchronicity.
When you are within alignment in your belief system, And being your true self, everything that is germane and relevant for that true self can do nothing but manifest in perfect timing.
Sure. Okay.
You can only experience the vibration you put out. You cannot experience a vibration you're not putting out.
So, and then to the converse of that, if you experience anything else, then you must be putting out a vibration.
Correct. And that's the self-correcting mechanism. If you get a reflection you don't prefer, that's not an invalidation. It's just an objective observation. Then the question is, what are my beliefs that are generating this kind of reflection? And by staying in a positive state, you can use what you don't prefer in a way that you do by learning the lesson of why it's there, because there's got to be a reason that it happened.
Sure. Is it always necessarily like a direct reflection that?
No. As we have said, especially interacting with other people, it's not always a one-to-one reflection just because they're in your life and they may be somebody that's not necessarily vibrationally completely compatible with you, but you may be willing to be a vibrational conduit for them to get out of that whatever they needed by showing up in your life.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes, I know. That's why I said it.
Fair. Well, thank you very much.
You are very welcome. Good day.
Good day.
Aveo, Bashar. And thank you for your high vibrational formula. Where does love figure into that equation? Thank you.
Love is the vibration of existence itself. Unconditional love is how you translate the vibration of existence itself. And therefore, the formula being that it helps you raise your vibration to be more compatible vibrationally with the frequency of existence itself is something that permeates the entirety of the formula.
Hello there, hello Bashar. My name is Benny. I'm from Portugal and France. I have a question about existence. There is something that I don't quite understand, which is how can existence be unaware of itself? If we eventually all go back to the source at some point, how can this part of all there is, which is aware of itself, at some point become unaware of itself when she goes back to the source? Thank you.